Hello, and welcome to our presentation on describing strategies that could be applied in a commercial flock to minimize fleece rot. I'm Jason,
And I'm Michelle.
and we hope you enjoy this presentation. The quality of wool is an important factor in determining the price and profitability that an owner can gain. With an increased quality of wool produced, there will be greater returns in profit. However, with many factors including fleece rot, reduce the quality of wool daily and must be prevented, managed or cured. Fleece rot has become recognized by the Australian wool industry as a fault in wool. With its identification in the late 1900s, it has been observed to be a bacterial infection of the skin in sheep. This was proved by Stewart, as he was able to reproduce the condition by transferring a culture of bacteria onto unaffected sheep. From this, it was discovered that fleece rot is caused by a bacterium called Pseudomonas aeruginosa. This bacteria required a considerable amount of moisture for growth. With the bacteria requiring a large amount of moisture, the outcome of the condition resulted in dermatitis. It was observed that the sheep susceptible to bacterial infection were predisposed to body stripe caused by a type of blowfly, Lucilla cuprina. This is because the lesions caused by fleece rot make a suitable nesting area to lay eggs. Areas of higher rainfall cause more incidence of fleece rot as the increased moisture levels promote bacterial growth. Economically, reductions in wool production and quality results in decreased revenue, as animals will be culled if infected and discolored wool will be penalized in score. Without the reduction of fleece rot in the Australian wool industry, the disease will make the industry unsustainable. Management of stock can prevent the spread of the disease and will allow owners to produce the highest quality of wool and therefore increase profitability. There are several management strategies that can be applied in a commercial flock to minimize the impacts of fleece rot. These include culling of infected sheep, shearing, and selecting genes resistant to the disease. A common strategy that combats the spread of fleece rot is culling infected individuals. The immediate removal of the infected sheep prevents the spread and prevalence of the disease in current and future generations. With this method of management, it can have the potential to remove the disease completely from the flock. This management strategy is highly effective in controlling the spread of the bacteria. However, it relies heavily on the experience of the owners and stock managers. Though it may be a good approach, negative effects may occur on the property with the excess of loss of stock resulting in a loss of income and profit. This will tend to occur on smaller properties and will have less effect on larger properties as the benefits will outweigh the disadvantages.
Shearing as a management strategy against fleece rot is also highly effective in reducing the overall effects. Again, this strategy requires experience and proper management of a property. Shearing prior to higher rainfall periods will reduce the incidence of fleece rot, as the bacteria Pseudomonas aeruginosa prefers to grow under longer, broader, and wetter wool conditions. Shorter wool length greatly reduces the percent affected by fleece rot in a population and can be achieved easily with shearing 2 to 3 months prior to high incidence periods. This is because the fleece's ability to regain its full waterproofing capacity takes about 10 weeks after shearing. However, without proper management and a calendar of operations with shearing included, this strategy will not work effectively, as shearing in some months of the year will actually increase the chances and prevalence of infected sheep. Thus, shearing is an effective strategy in reducing fleece rot when proper management skills and adequate experience is used. Genetic selection has proven useful in reducing the prevalence of fleece rot and fly strike in a commercial flock. This has been proven in studies conducted by Dowling et al. And Engwerder et al. It has also been shown that different strains of merino breeds are more susceptible to fly strike and fleece rot than others. As it is a general assumption that sheep with finer wool genotypes, lower swint levels, higher wax content, whiter fleece, and thinner staples of higher crimp frequency have greater resistance to fleece rot. These individuals in a flock can be exploited in selection and breeding management strategies. Dowling et al. Has shown that the moisture content is moderately heritable, being approximately 0.38 plus or minus 0.04. Thus, selecting individuals or flocks with excellent fleece condition and low moisture levels, genetics can be used to reduce the incidence of fleece rot and therefore reduce the incidence of body strike. Also, Dixon et al. Detected several uncharacterized bacterial species that have the same sequence with 16 ribosomal RNA genes of bacteria that cause problems to the skin. These uncharacterized species were present in susceptible sheep and lacking in fleece rot resistant sheep. So, by selecting animals without these uncharacterized species, the bacteria causing wool rot will be reduced and hence the condition will be minimized. This method of management reduces the amount of individuals to be culled, as there are fewer sheep infected with fleece rot. This will greatly increase the economic outcome of the property and industry, as the quality of the wool will not be affected by this common condition. There is also great potential for future research into the specific uncharacterized bacteria agents responsible for initiating the inflammatory response, as this still remains undescribed. Vaccination of sheep against fleece rot has been considered for years, however it is still also a future strategy to minimize this disease. In the 1980s and the 1990s, a large research effort was undertaken to discover a vaccination to prevent Pseudomonas aeruginosa and other bacterial infections that cause dermatitis and eventually fleece rot. A vaccine would give each individual sheep the immunity from the bacteria, thus removing the effect of fleece rot. With the removal of this disease, the incidence of body strike will also reduce, as the resulting increase in moisture in the fleece will be non-existent. With the introduction of a vaccine developed by the research, there was little effect on the prevalence of fleece rot in sheep. It did, however, show promising results in a particular Pseudomonas aeruginosa strain, but failed to take effect on the other different strains of the bacteria. Since the early attempts of securing a vaccine for Pseudomonas aeruginosa, there has been extensive research into the etiology and pathogenesis of bacteria. With more research, there is a potential in creating a successful vaccine to Pseudomonas aeruginosa and thus preventing fleece rot in the Australian wool industry.
There are several management strategies available to combat the effects of fleece rot in a commercial flock. These include culling of infected or susceptible individuals, shearing in appropriate months, and selecting genes resistant to fleece rot. There are also future developments in preventing this disease, which includes a production of a vaccine. Also, further research into the uncharacterized bacterial species that cause dermatitis can be looked into. However, no individual management strategy can single-handedly control the prevalence of fleece rot. Thus, a combination of these strategies must be implemented to reduce the impacts on a flock. This in turn will increase the welfare of the animal and profitability of the property. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our animation.